I wanted to talk to you this morning from one of the stories that Jesus told. It's a well-known story. Most of you are probably acquainted with it. Commonly, it's called the parable of the Good Samaritan. Jesus said a man was walking one day from Jerusalem to Jericho. That's about a 14-mile walk, but downhill most of the way. But it does pass through some pretty desolate and rough territory. And on the way, the man was assaulted by a band of thieves who robbed him of everything he had, stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him at the side of the road, half dead. It just so happened, however, that same day, a priest was walking down the road. He was from the temple in Jerusalem, one of the religious leaders of the day, and he came down the Jericho road and saw the man lying, dying at the side of the road. His immediate reaction was, I don't want anything to do with this. This is trouble. And he quickly passed by on the other side of the road. Then also there was a Levite. Levite is an administrator in the temple, and he was walking down the road. He at least stopped and went over and looked at the man. But as he looked at him, he thought, I don't want to handle this. This is too much, too complicated. I'm sorry for him, but nothing I can do. And he passed on. The third one that came down was a Samaritan. Samaritans were part of a race, a culture there in Palestine that the Jews kind of despised and looked upon as rather inferior, certainly morally and spiritually inferior to the Jews. But the Samaritan man came down, saw him lying there, dying, and immediately he got off his donkey. He wasn't experienced, he wasn't a medical man, he didn't know much about this, and he had no equipment. It wasn't a hospital that he was equipped. But he did what he could with what he had. And he cleaned up the man's wounds and poured in some wine, which was an antiseptic. And then, when they were cleaned, he poured in some oil, which soothed it. And then he bound the wounds up. I don't know where he got the bandages. He probably had to tear some of his own clothing to get bandages to bind this man up. Then he put him on his donkey, and he led him down the road until he came to an inn. Took him in the inn, looked after him, paid the innkeeper, and when he had to leave, he said to the innkeeper, now, you look after this man. And when I come back, if it costs you any more money, I'll pay for it. So that was the story Jesus told. And of all the people in the story, Jesus wanted us to understand what the proper behavior was towards the man that was dying in the roadside. And that Jesus said the Good Samaritan was the one who did the right thing But all of the people in the story were not good Samaritans. And they did not all do what they were supposed to do for this man. And I want us to look at the story, and I want us to see from the different people that are involved in their attitudes towards this man, because there emerges for us from their attitudes 4 different philosophies in life, 4 possible attitudes towards other people. And as you look at these 4 philosophies, I want you to decide which one is most appropriate and right for you, and which one reflects best your attitude. The background to the story, a man came to Jesus one day and said, "What is the most important commandment?" Jesus said, "The most important commandment is that you love God with all of your heart, mind, soul, and strength." That's the most important. And for us, it's still the most important. Your relation with God is the most vital thing in your Christian life. But then Jesus went on and said, the second most important thing is that you love your neighbor as you love yourself. This is the second most important. So after our relationship with God, the most important issue in our life is how we get on with other people, and what your attitude is towards other people. Now, you've no doubt found what I found, that when it comes to other people, we keep on bumping into them all the time. There just seems to be people wherever you go. They're everywhere. You can't get rid of them. And you have to learn to get along with them. Some of these people, they're all different. Haven't met 2 that are like. Some of them are nice, and some of them are not so nice. Some of them are friendly, some are not friendly. Some I find are easy to get along with, and others are not easy to get along with. Some of them like me, some of them don't like me. It's people. You even get them in church. They're everywhere. People. But they're there, and you have to learn to get along with them and develop some kind of attitude towards them. They're there, and a whole lot of value in your life and my life, a whole lot of our relationship with God wrapped up and determined by how we react and respond to other people. And I found in my own life, when my relationships with other people are good, I find that I'm happy and encouraged and confident. But when I'm not getting on with other people, there's tension and there's stress, and it drains me and it disturbs me, and it takes the peace and tranquility out of life. Very important to me how I interact with other people. And as a Christian, it's vital to the health and vigor of my Christian experience. How I love and care and think and react, and my attitude towards other people. A whole lot of being a Christian is determined by how well I learn to relate to other people. So this story that Jesus told is important for us. For the quality of our lives and the health and vigor of our Christian experience, we need to learn how to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. So 4 philosophies in life emerge from this story. And I'd like you to listen to these philosophies and see which one is appropriate to your attitude towards other people. The first philosophy is the philosophy of the thief. The thieves that beat the man, stole from him, took everything he had, and left him for dead. And the philosophy of the thief is, what's yours is mine. What's yours is mine, if I'm smart enough or strong enough to get it from you. What belongs to you, I want to take because I want it, and I'm smart enough and strong enough to get it from you. It's the philosophy of the thief. Not very nice. A selfish, greedy way of life. What yours is mine. They have no right to it. It's not theirs, it's yours. But they take it from you, and you suffer loss if they get some gain. It's a very selfish, greedy attitude towards others. Me first. My interests are all that really matter. I'm the all-important one, and my desires and my wishes are all that count. And if you have what I want, I'm going to try and get it from you. I may have to hurt you. I may have to damage you. I may cause you pain and loss. But what counts is that I get what I want. It's a philosophy of the thief. What's yours is mine. The major sin in this philosophy is its incredible selfishness and greed, jealousy, sometimes even violence. If you don't willingly give me what I want, I'll take it from you forcibly. What's yours is mine. Now, I understand the kind of crowd I'm talking to this morning. And I know that nobody here is likely to take a gun and go into a bank and shoot the teller and steal the money, or hit the man in the corner store over the head and rob the corner store, or nobody here is going to beat up an old lady and take her purse. But there are other ways of stealing, rather than just violent theft. There are other things to steal other than money. It was Shakespeare that said, "He who steals my purse steals trash, but he who steals my good name steals all that I have." And we need to be careful that the philosophy of the thief does not begin to creep into our hearts and express itself, not in violent robbery, but more subtle ways. Someone may have honor and respect that you don't have. So you want to rob them of their honor and respect by whispering stories that rob them of their good name. There are others who are in a position that you want, and you want to disturb their peace, and you want to rob them of their emotional well-being by saying hurtful and hard things against them. You can rob a person of their confidence, of their joy, of their peace. You've got it, I don't have it, and somehow I'm going to take it from you. It's the philosophy of the thief. What's yours is mine. There's other ways of stealing money, too, than just robbing it blatantly from a person. It's easier to steal from institutions. We can steal from the government. They don't know how to spend our money anyway. Or we can steal it from our employer. He's got enough, he won't miss it anyway. You can steal from society. It impoverishes everyone else, but it enriches you. That's the philosophy of the thief. Don't let it creep in. Don't let it become part. It's selfish, it's greedy, it's hurtful. You do not take what does not belong to you. You do not rob from someone else what they have. This is no way to treat our neighbor. This is no way to express Christian love for one another. The philosophy of the thief. What's yours is mine. Then the second philosophy was the philosophy of the priest and the Levite. They're the men that came and saw the man in need and then walked on and never helped. And the philosophy of the priest and the Levite is, what's mine is mine, and I'm going to keep it. What's mine's mine. You may have a need. I could help. I have resources and I have means to help, but I'll leave you to your business. Now I'm just going to take care of mine. It's mine's mine, and I'm going to keep it. And even though you need it, I'm not going to give it. The sin in this philosophy is more a sin of omission than commission. It's not that these men did anything wrong. It is that they didn't do anything right. They were probably good enough men. They were not bad men. They didn't beat this man up. They didn't kick him when he was down. They were, in fact, upstanding, respectable men in the community, in the society. They had good jobs. They paid their bills. They wouldn't have done you a bad turn, but then, in your time of need, they wouldn't have done you a good turn either. They would have left you alone. They were self-contained, self-satisfied, self-absorbed, and the rest of the folks could sink or swim. Everything was all right with them. What's mine's mine. And the trouble with this self-absorbed, self-interest, me-first way of life is that as we live it, it becomes more and more uncomfortable for us and more wrong. There is a self-destructiveness about this self-contained living. There is something soul-destroying about turning our backs on people in need and refusing to help them. It destroys the heart, it destroys the soul, it destroys the person. The people are not going to share. They cannot see past their own self-interest. They see no value or need to give something they've got to someone else in need. They think, I'm happy, I'm taken care of, all my needs are met, That's all that counts. The rest, they can take care of themselves, and they get into trouble. That's their fault. I'm all right. And it destroys their soul. Any Christian trying to live with this philosophy will not get very far. What's mine's mine. I'm going to keep it. It's a philosophy that's like the Dead Sea in Palestine. You know, the Dead Sea in Palestine is a very low-lying body of water, very hot. And it's dead because nothing lives in it. The water has become so polluted with salts and alkalines that fish and that cannot live in the lake. It's dead. And the reason it's dead is that it receives good, fresh water all the time from the River Jordan, and other streams flow into the Dead Sea. But because it's so hot and low-lying, the water of the sea maintains its level just by evaporation. There is no outlet. Water comes in, but it doesn't give any water out. It just evaporates it, and so the salts build and the alkaline builds in the water until it kills all life within it. And that is the philosophy of the priest and the Levite. They'll take all they get. Good blessings and good things will flow into their life, but nothing flows out. Nothing is given. Everything is kept. And this self-absorbent philosophy, this interest only in me and mine, destroys the soul. And of course, you understand again, we're talking more than money here. There are people around you in need. But what they need more than just money. They may need you to give them some time. They may need emotional support and care. They may need encouragement and confidence that you can give. You can give care. You can give love. You can give interest. You can give time and encouragement. You can do these things to help them, but there has to be an outflow to others. The philosophy of the priest and Levite will kill your spirit. What's mine's mine, and I'm going to keep it. The third philosophy is the philosophy of the innkeeper. And the philosophy of the innkeeper is, what's mine is yours if you pay for it. What's mine is yours, but give me something back. Now, this is a common philosophy. We all participate in this. This is the basis of our commercial culture and our commercial society. I have something you need, and I will provide that for you if you pay me for it. This is all right. This is not bad. This is not terrible. This is something that we all live by. We all do it. We all participate in it. When you go to the grocery store to get your groceries, and you walk up and down the aisle, now the grocer has gone to a lot of time and effort and money and expense to display all these beautiful things on his shelves. But we all understand as we walk down with our shopping buggy, all that stuff there, it belongs to the grocer. It doesn't belong to me. I can go along and take what I want off and put it in my buggy, but I still understand that it belongs to him. It doesn't belong to me. Until I get to the checkout stand, and the girl checks it out, and then I pay my money, and then it becomes mine. And that's the philosophy of our commercial society. Nothing wrong with it. We all do it. We all participate in it. What's mine is yours if you pay for it. If you're working for somebody and an employer, that's the agreement. I will give you my time, I'll give you my talent, I'll give you my expertise, if at the end of the week you pay me for it. So it's the philosophy of the innkeeper. And it's a good system. It works well for us. But it does need fairness and honesty. When there is fairness and honesty in our commercial system, then everybody puts into it about what they take out of it. But the old story of human selfishness and greed begins to raise its head again. And people want to take more out of it than they're putting into it. And they begin to cheat and lie and avoid so that they can get more and more and more. Or they become lazy and indulgent and don't want to put in what is expected but want to get more out. Then the system begins to fall apart. We live in a commercially dominated society, and we need to adapt to the virtues of a commercial society, which are fairness and honesty. And stay away from the cheating and the greed and the lying that so very easily creeps into it. But you understand that our commercial interactions are only part of life. There's a whole lot of giving and taking that has nothing to do with money, has nothing to do with commerce. It's just part of human relationships. We live by the philosophy of the innkeeper, but it should not dominate us to the exclusion of all else. What's mine is yours if you pay for it. Then the last philosophy is the philosophy of the Good Samaritan. The thief says, what's yours is mine. The priest and the Levite said, what's mine's mine. The innkeeper said, what's mine's yours if you pay for it. The Good Samaritan's philosophy is, what's mine is yours if you need it. What's mine is yours if you need it. Here was a man lying, dying at the roadside. His need was obvious and immediate and urgent. So the Good Samaritan came down and he bound up the wounds, he cleaned the man up, he put him in his donkey, he took him to an inn, he paid the innkeeper. This is the attitude of a giver. Somebody who wants to give and to help and to be of assistance. You have a need and I have the ability to help, then I will try to help. I will give you what you need. What's mine is yours. Now, of course, we have to be careful. Give you what you need. Not necessarily give you what you want or what you ask for, but an ability to see genuine need and to know what needs to be done in order to fulfill it. I have something to give, and I want to give it where it is most needed. It is a generous, loving, thoughtful, helpful attitude. And you know, the world is full of people like this. Really is. You don't get much publicity about it, when you listen to the news, you think everybody in the world's a thief or a killer. But actually, the world is full of people who understand this philosophy. What's mine is yours if you need it. I picked up this story from the internet. It's a story that comes to us from Calgary, Alberta. And it's a story about a boy, 8 years old, called Billy. Billy was sick with cancer and was dying. The doctor came to his mother and said to her, Billy does not have long to live. So the mother was sitting talking to Billy one afternoon in the hospital. And she said, Billy, if you had ever grown up to be a man, what did you want to be? What would you love to be? And Billy's face just brightened up a little and his eyes began to sparkle and he said, oh, I always wanted to be a fireman. And the mother could tell that this was something on Billy's heart. He said, oh, I wish I could have been a fireman. So the mother got thinking about it and said, maybe we could do something about it. So she phoned the local fire chief and told the story to the fire chief. And she said, would it be possible maybe for one of your men to come up someday and just give Billy a little visit? Well, the fire chief had caught the spirit here, caught the atmosphere, and he said, oh, we can do that, but we can do much more than that. And so the fire chief himself came and visited Billy and talked to Billy and said, so you want to be a fireman, Billy? Oh, love to be a fireman. He says, well, we'll see what we can do about that. And he took Billy's measurements. He said, if you're going to be a fireman, you need a uniform. And you need a helmet, fireman's helmet. And he took the measurements and he sent it into the local place that made the firemen's uniforms. And they had a uniform that fitted Billy. And so one day the fire chief came to the hospital and Billy put on his fireman's suit and his helmet. And although he was sick, the fireman says, come on, you're going to be a fireman for a day. And they took Billy out and took him to the fire station, and he spent hours there with the firemen. He talked to them. They talked to him. He actually went out on 2 fire calls in the fire truck with the sirens blazing and the bells clanging, and Billy was there with his helmet on. He got to ride in the fire chief's van. And when at the end of the day the fire chief presented him with a little certificate which said, Billy Friesen, honorary fireman. And he sent Billy back to the hospital. Well, Billy was exhausted, but he was so happy. And he wouldn't go to sleep without his fireman's helmet on his bed, and he would have it sit there through the days of his sickness, his fireman's helmet, and he talked about it, and he remembered that they didn't have to do that. They weren't getting paid to do that. But somehow they saw a need, and they could fill it, and they did. What's mine is yours, if you're in need of it. The doctor came to Billy's mother and said, you better prepare yourself. Billy only has another day or 2 to live. So she phoned the fire chief and said, maybe before Billy dies, you could come up and see him. Oh, said the fire chief, we can do better than that. And he made arrangements with the hospital. Billy was on the 3rd floor. Made arrangements for the hospital. And Billy lying in his sick room, when he could hear the sound of the firemen's sirens and the bells clanging, and these 2 or 3 fire trucks drew up right outside his window. And the ladders came out and reached up to his window. And firemen began to climb up the ladder and into Billy's room. And Billy lay there, sick and dying, but he watched all this till all these firemen gathered around him. And the fire chief said, "Billy, I understand you're going to meet the great fire chief in the sky." Billy said, "Yes." He says, "Well, when you get there, Billy, you will be a real fireman for sure." Now, they didn't have to do that. They weren't getting paid to do that. Just that here was a need, and they could do something about it. And it made the last days of that little boy so happy, and helped the mother and the family. It's a spirit of giving. Reaches out beyond money. What some people need is friendship. You could give that. What some people need is encouragement. You could give that. What some people need is just a listening ear for somebody to pay attention and to listen. You could do that. What's mine is yours, if you have need of it. And Christians who are partners in life with the Spirit of God, we have resources that we can share. There is a joy that we can share, and a strength that we can share, and a hope that is bright that we can share. There is a gospel and a Savior that we can share. Amen. In a world full of broken people, we can give. In a world full of lonely people, we can give. In a world that is full of empty people, we can give. We have not only of ourselves, but we have a God and a Savior. We have something to give. So I'd like you to put your antennas out and begin to be sensitive to the needs that are all around us, to the people that are in need, and have an attitude like the Good Samaritan, an attitude of love and care for others, sensitivity over the needs of others, but be on the lookout, be on the alert. Be like the Good Samaritan. What's mine is yours, if you have need of it. The roadway of life is littered with broken, wounded people, bruised and hurting, who just need somebody to stop and listen and pour out some oil and wine and bind them up and take them to a place of help. The world is full of them. Your journey is full of them. Remember what Jesus said. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. So there's the 4 philosophies. You'll be living by one of them or a mixture of more than one of them. But which one really fits your attitude towards other people? I'd like us to sing a hymn that is appropriate to this as we close the service. Out in the highways and byways of life, many are weary and sad. Carry the sunshine where darkness is life, making the sorrowing glad. Make me a blessing. Let's make that our prayer this morning. Let's just determined before God, we'll put our antennas out. When there are people that we see have a need that we can help with, we'll do it. Let's stand as we sing.